usually ask in this class, which is, if I decide to do a paid version, should I do the monthly or the yearly? I bought a yearly Claude. I regret that because of this leapfrogging of technologies. I think that while I may use Claude for all 12 of those months, it is equally possible that the new ChatGPT 5, which just came out, may be infinitely better than Claude, and then I'll have to pay for 2 accounts if I want to use the best one. So my pro tip is, there's just going to be a lot of change in technology over the next couple of years. If you're going to do a paid account, my opinion is to do month to month now, even if it costs you $3 or $4 more a month. Having that flexibility, if something super extraordinary comes out on another model, it depends on your budget and stuff, but that's a good tactic. Okay. So we'll learn just sort of the basics of the interface, how to use it, where everything is pretty simple. You probably don't even need any instruction on that. We'll also spend some time learning, how to create a really good prompt. And a prompt is just a fancy way of saying, interacting with the GPT, like, how you get it to give you the best answer it can. Okay. And so, some people might say, like, I'm a 58-year-old guy and I'm vegetarian and I want to lose 5 pounds. That's a prompt. Okay. It's a really bad prompt. I mean, it's not a bad prompt. It could be a lot better. And that's what we'll focus on today, is how to create a really instructive prompt that's going to give you, something that's even better than if you just did the simple. Okay. So, we'll there'll be some me time where everyone just sort of takes, your own instance, and you'll start, playing around and, surprising yourself and your neighbors. And we'll make sure that folks have an opportunity to talk about what they, were excited about or what didn't work, and hopefully learn from one another today. We'll learn how to keep trying and to sort of shake AI out of its doldrums if you're not getting the types of responses that you want. And then we'll talk about 10 specific ways you could use it for your own business. And there'll be opportunity for you to practice that and get some feedback. And I'll walk around if someone's getting stuck. Then we'll talk about why it's a really vital tool for you to master today. And, it's coming, like it or not. It's not, no one's going to scrub AI away. It's like, I feel like this is like 1983, where if you walked up Main Street here in Culpeper, probably most of the businesses didn't have a computer. And many of them said, when a salesperson walked in and said, "Hey, do you want to buy a computer?" They probably said, "Yeah, I've got my system." And, at some point, the writing became very obvious that you had to invest in this new technology. So AI's here, and it does make your life more efficient. There is utility that you can get out of it immediately, and I would expect it's a new thing that you're going to be using if you want to compete. And then we'll discuss the world of tools outside of what most people think of as AI, which for most people is ChatGPT. Okay, there are some other things that I'll demonstrate. I use AI to write code now, and I did start off my profession as a developer. I haven't written code in probably 20 years, but I now am building full apps and deploying them with a database servers, redundancy, load balancing, the whole infrastructure without writing any code at all. And you can do that too, like in 10 minutes. And I'll show you how to do that. So those are some of the objectives for today. It's a lot to cover in a short amount of time. Okay. So the first thing is just like trying to get you really to absorb this idea, how this can give you a real advantage. Big companies, you think, oh, they can invest in AI. Oh, I'll share all these slides with you guys too. Yeah. So you can have access to it. Big companies, they can easily invest in AI, but big companies move slow. Microsoft isn't just gonna, well, Microsoft's maybe a bad example, but, some Mars Candy Company up in DC, they're not just gonna all of a sudden just blow AI out and let everyone go crazy with it and be experimental and be creative. You can do that in your business. And you can use this as an opportunity to really create some tools or to create some efficiency that the big companies are going to have to slowly adopt, but you've got a lot of flexibility. AI can really save some time on automating the things that you don't like doing. And the things that, even if you like doing it, makes it easier and faster and more efficient. I really encourage you to focus on building a foundation of best practices now, and I think it'll pay off for you. It's also, I like to think of AI not as like my employee or like a tool, but more of a coworker. So I like asking it for advice on things, or if I have an idea, or is this look right, or is this too sassy, or is this going to convince someone of a certain thing? This is the thing I want people to understand out of this email, or is that obvious enough? So, sort of like I might go to Rosie and say, hey, Rosie, I'm thinking about sending this to Brian up in Culpeper. Does this look right? Treat your AI like that. It's a good sort of framework of thinking about, a lot of people look at AI as their employee that they can, speak ill to whenever they want. It's like, you're my, sort of, I'm the master here. And I like thinking of it more of a coworker. Okay. We've got the account, everyone's already set up. Okay. So what is a prompt, the do's and the don'ts? And if you get anything out of today, this is, I feel like, the most important lesson I can tell you. The best way to interact with AI is to start off and tell AI who it is. So to go back to the example I said earlier, I'm a 58-year-old guy and I want to lose 10 pounds. I wouldn't start there. I would say, I would say you are a PhD and, people over 50 years and their nutrition. You understand exercise. You are an expert in vegetarian diet. You are, familiar with foods available in Virginia and the United States. And I would set up all of the things, just like I wouldn't go in this room and say, hey, you think that's a melanoma? I would first say, who in here is a dermatologist? Or, same thing here. You say, these are the skills I want you to have. And then you say, this is who I am and what I'm trying to solve. And then, and this is a critical step, say, what else would you like to know before you answer my question? And if you follow that recipe, I think you will be way out in front of the way most people are using AI. And the results that you get will be materially better than if you just treated it like Google, like, hey, fix this for me.
So do you put that prompt ahead and tell it how to act before you put, or do you do it all in the same box?
I do it all in one
Okay,
thing.
you have to make sure.
But it's because if you say like, hey, you are this, and you press enter, then it's going to come back and say, okay, I'm this, like, what do you want?
Yeah.
So I prefer just to go ahead and say, here's who you are, here's who I am. What else do you need to know before you answer, the question or the problem I'm trying to solve? And so we have a bakery in Charlottesville. It's close to our office, called Marie Bet. And I'm going to just do this in real time. You guys can watch and see what we get here. So I'm assuming some or all of you have read that prompt here. I'm just going to, oops. I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go to Claude. And I'm going to say for it. So when you come in, I've got, this is a paid version. So I have things like projects, which is like historical things, but this is really, your Google search thing. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to paste in who it is. And then I'm going to ask it this question that I had or give it this context. I run a bakery in Charlottesville, Virginia. Here's my menu. Can you give me some ideas on some specials? They should all be under $18. Um, include hashtags and create these posts. And let's just see what we get. So I've got and then I will say, what else would you like to know before answering? And we'll see what happens. It's going to ask me some questions. Okay, so it wants the menu. I thought I gave it the menu. Did I not? Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. Looks like I didn't.
Give me the link to it.
I gave it a link to the site, but I should have given it a link to this, although I'm surprised it didn't find that on its own. Oops. Go away. What are the current drink offerings? Drinks are on the menu. What are the most popular items? That's a good question. Popular items are scones and coffee. And do you have any seasonal ingredients? No seasonal. Okay, so I'm not going to answer all of these, but I would if in a real world. But you can see sort of it's asking really good questions. What's your customer demographic? So, this is right next to UVA, so it gets a lot of college kids coming through. It also is close to the downtown mall, so it has a lot of people who stop there on their way to work. It has a lot of people who sort of meet there and do collaboration. So I would answer all of these questions about what's our social media like? I would give it links to all my social media. What are the types of posts that perform best? If I had information on that, I would say these two are the ones that have performed best. And then I would ask it to create these things. So one of the things that I ask it, you can see what it's doing. So it went out and looked at the site, and then it went out and looked at the menu. And then I ask it to make sure to check the weather, because that might be, iced coffee versus high coffee. And so it went out and got the weather forecast. And here's where it checked. It checked, these respected sources here. And then it is giving me all of these lists I ask it to give me the hashtags for each of the different platforms. And we'll let it finish and then we'll sort of see how it did. So if you notice, it's keeping, just like I asked, all of my prices under $18. It's creating specific posts for Instagram, Facebook, just like I asked, and it's considering the weather. So this is a great example of something that all of us in this room could have done, but we could not have done it this fast, right? And so that's Wednesday midweek refresh. It even kind of has this context of how people think about Wednesday as a midweek sort of thing, and it's coming up. Beat the midweek blues, and so all of these posts are quite appropriate, and the specials are following. Great question. So the answer to that is a little bit nuanced. So in this context, if I'm starting a new thing, I would start here. I have a master prompt that I continually edit that I keep outside of ChatGPT. And I think this is a really good best practice. So if it's just for your business, you want to have the I am and my customer is. And as you say, you know what, I'm seeing a lot of people from Madison County come up to my shop, or I'm getting a lot of business from this thing. Edit that master prompt. All of the language models, I think about them like an overeager intern. They really want to please you, and they will often do more than you ask. And it is a good practice to remind it. Like if I was running this bakery, I would have this one project for social media stuff, and I would keep, I would come back to this project and, ask for next week's, or ask it for a question about SEO or something like that. And then occasionally I would say, as a reminder, and I would put in, the you are, I am, my customer is, and kind of just fleshing the memory. Just like if we hadn't seen each other in a long time and we had worked together on a project, I would say, just as a reminder, I know these two coding languages. I don't know that one, to kind of help you understand how I can help, and don't ask me to do this. Yeah. So that's just something you'll notice, that sometimes the quality will start to degrade. And if you see that, paste that master prompt back in and say, as a reminder, before you do anything, this is who you are. And that can change too. And this is who I am. This is my customer is. Yeah. Okay. So now, like, this is great. This saved me some time, but maybe I want to try something else. So my friend told me that if he made the names of his specials funny, then that would be, that more people like them. So can you redo the specials, but make the titles my funny or like a dad joke? And we'll see what we get. Scone, but not forgotten. Beautiful day to chill. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things that, again, could we all have done this? I'm pretty good at dad jokes. I don't mean to brag, but, you know, th- it would take a lot of time. And even if you don't like some of these, just toss them out and, do the Thursday again. That's stupid or offensive or whatever. But you try this, do people like the funny ones better? Do they click on that on Instagram and like it more? And see if it works, or try if Wednesdays I make everything under $10, so those are some things that I would try. So you can see, just like this, it snapped this out for me. And then one of the prompts that when I first started teaching this class, egg prices were very high, if you remember a few months back. So one of the prompts that I would say are egg prices are very high. Can you minimize eggs in the specials? And again, it's smart enough to know if a scone has an egg in it or not as an ingredient. And does the frittata have eggs? Is it heavy on eggs or light on eggs? And it will redo these. So, I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people when you're starting out is, like, you get this amazing thing back. You've only started. Like, that's just the beginning. So the new valuable currency in the world, I believe, is creativity. And creativity, I'm defining as not stopping with your first idea. Is just keep going. You're not accepting the first answer. And the more creative you can be, the more you're going to get out of the tool, and not just the tool, but out of life and solving general problems. But I want to hire English majors and economists these days, people who really can think about things from lots of different directions instead of just a computer science who's going to, create beautiful code. I would really encourage you to, I think in the world of AI, the more creative you can be, the more valuable your skills are going to be out to your customers. So I would really focus on that as much as possible. Another thing, well, actually, let me ask some questions. What would be some cool prompts to ask to go from here? What could you think of if you owned this bakery that you might want to optimize or ask it for some help with?
Like you can ask for a calendar for the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Ask it, on a post 4 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Give me some great prompts. Give me 3 different ideas that I can post each day.
Yep.
Plan everything out for the next 30 days. For those days of the weeks that references back to my business, different specials that we just created here, and build off of that.
Very good. I would, if I am Marie Bett, I would say, UVA is coming into session next week. And a lot of parents are going to be in town. How can I make sure that I get, some visibility there? So really think about what's happening today. Is really hot today. Let me, adjust things, or it's going to rain today. And it might come up with some ideas for you. So just keep thinking, keep asking, keep challenging it to do whatever.
And then also kind of building off of that, I know like in ChatGPT, it uses like the thread layout on the side. So kind of tying that back, like I have a couple different threads that I use for specific things. And after about 2 weeks or so, you do have to go back and remind it.
Yeah.
Just because of the memory limitations.
Yes.
But overall, I just use the things that I do repetitively in that same thread, so that it builds off of each thing.
Yes.
And it's continually learning.
So when you do a paid version, and they're all kind of the same, right? In terms of how they work. In the paid version, I think some of them will throttle you at 5 different folders. So you could have one where you're asking it to write code, one where you're asking for, how do you do outreach, one where you're asking, how do I take care of my aging parents, or something personal, and you want to keep those discrete. Some people say those are truly discrete. Some people say they aren't. Because the AI, it's like social media. It is engineered to keep us engaged. So, I mean, there is an evil side to this, right? So they make more money the more we use it. They get more information out of us the more we use it. And, while the paid versions are supposedly not training their models of what we put in them, and the paid models are not, polluting or combining our data when we ask it not to, I think it would be naive to think that, a company that's really pressing hard with a lot of competition right now, we don't know who's going to win the AI wars, and it's probably not going to be Claude or ChatGPT, quite frankly. Who knows who it'll be?
What should I do for a reel or a picture? Like, what should the picture be that we get some of the printers? So I think that could be something to include in here.
We just check you can do that. Like, I don't necessarily want to create the graphic because I don't look the graphics it creates. I like, okay, this is a great post. Thank you. What should the graphic be? It'll give you a whole bunch of great ideas that you can take that to help create the actual graphics that you do want.
Yeah.
Maybe the best way to create it, it'll have that weird AI
Yeah.
look to it.
Rough draft to start.
Yeah.
So here's what I would suggest. So I'm just taking the Wednesday menu item. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come over to Sora, which is part of ChatGPT. and I'm going to ask it, let's see, let me, this is me as Superman. This was in the last class. Yeah, my mom, I sent that to my mom and she's like, where'd you get that costume? I was like, where'd I get those biceps? Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to just, please draw this menu item for me. And this used to give you junk results.
Score's gotten much better.
Sort has gotten a lot better. This will take a moment here because I'm using a free version of Sora, but we'll come back and have a look at it. And, or just, your question was more general in that, how do I get some ideas for that? Or, I would say, hey, go out to Pinterest or Instagram and find me 7 examples where people have done something like this, and then help, figure out which one you like. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good options, and that's a little stuff, but, I have the question, other question I have is, I up until recently worked for the government and was talking to different companies about using AI. The government was very AI averse because we don't want to be putting non-public information into AI. So like, what do you recommend we not put?
That's a great question. So a lot of this depends on the nature of your business and your level of comfort with privacy. So if I was dealing with health records, I would not use a public. I think you could get yourself in trouble. If you're, if I'm a coffee shop, if I'm Marie Bed, a coffee shop and bakery in Charlottesville, Virginia, would I throw my financials out there and say, how can I optimize, these different accounting functions? I probably would anonymize the data as best I could. But yeah, I would feel comfortable doing that. But am I naive enough to think that they're not training the LLM on that stuff? I would expect they are. Yeah, if you're using a free version, anything you put in, just imagine that you're shouting it from the rooftop. But the paid version, they will say, we're not going to do that. But again, it's just, I'm probably in the middle of the bell curve in terms of being, but I'm not creating anything that's like super secret intellectual property that I'm worried about someone stealing my idea for this pharmaceutical. And I'm not, trying to figure out how to kill my neighbor's dogs or, whatever, like something awful that I, could come back to haunt me if I was doing that. So, so what? I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to deal with my dad who's dealing with Alzheimer's. So you know that about me. It's not that big of a deal to me. So our image is almost rendered here. Any other privacy questions, or can anyone want to bring something up about that? Yeah.
Totally overwhelmed with reports and proposals.
Yep.
So I have to use ChatGPT. I put in information. I just tell it how much I want it to charge for it to format. So it sounds like that's stupid because I'm giving out all of my secret formulas to the world. But it saves me so much time, I don't even care.
It's like I know this cocaine is bad for me, but it feels really good.
Because for me, I don't have, because similar to Bo, I'm just assuming that they're taking all of my data. Same thing with my phone, same thing with my iPad. So I'm at the point where I'm just like, have it. I don't care.
Okay, high five.
Because in general, they're gonna get it regardless.
Right.
Even if you go on the dark web, they have all your information, your stuff is out there. So I wouldn't stress about it. And in the scheme of ChatGPT, they're not gonna physically use that exact data.
Right.
It's just taking it's trying to learn from what you're putting into it.
And it's smart enough to know, like in the Marie Bad example, so one coffee shop in one town in Virginia had this kind of revenue. they're going to measure that against every coffee shop who also put their, data in. So,
I do the same thing. I put my financials and everything in here and I'm like, figure out this equation, figure this out, do all that. I dump everything into it. I literally do not care.
I would at least, I think,
I delete your numbers.
I delete the names that, like if you're putting client data in there, instead of saying that, and their social security.
Yeah, I appreciate that privacy for sure. And some of the stuff I do is very, government facility, so I know not to do that.
Yes.
Only use the paid versions and.
Yes. I think that's, the paid versions, you at least have some sort of, well, you told me you weren't going to use this. And here's the image it drew of our, not bad. It gave me 2 to choose from. It's
Wow.
pretty impressive. Yeah. So, not perfect, but, yeah, not bad.
It's a great rough draft, if anything, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot better than it used to be.
Used it. That's interesting.
So when I first started using some of the AI models, there was something called Midjourney. It's still out there, and it was an early image generation thing. And I love these like travel posters from the 1930s. And so I wonder if like these are good enough that someone would buy these. So I had a couple of favorite artists that are long since dead. So I wasn't, they're they're no longer copyright protected. And I would say in the style of, these like 1930s artists, draw me a travel poster for Paris. And I put them on Etsy and I've made a few $1,000. And I mean, it took 0 time to do. And Midjourney was so inferior to what the tools are now, just 2 years ago. And I got an order yesterday, and it's I mean, I'm not going to retire on this. My kids, I'm still going to have to pay for braces out of a different fund, but it's still kind of fun to see like, oh my God, this thing is powerful enough that it can do this stuff. Yeah. Okay, so the don'ts of prompting. Don't skip the first thing, which is you are. Okay. Don't give it that bad or vague details. Like, give me a list of daily specials for each day next week. I run a bakery. Okay. I mean, that's actually, you'll get great responses. But if you say, I run a bakery in Nome, Alaska, or I run a bakery in, Wilmington, Delaware, or I run one in Texas. The menus of those different places, or I'm in a Latino neighborhood in San Diego, or you can do better than this. We can all do better than this. This is a lazy prompt, and it, you're going to get a lazy answer. Don't ignore the sources. So if you get something back, this is my overeager intern example. ChatGPT, even if it doesn't find the perfect answer, it will give you an answer. Okay. Just like if you ask the intern, did you, fix this spreadsheet? Even they'll just do it and make a mistake instead of getting it right. So you can always say, what are the sources that you use to get that answer? And you saw it, I checked the weather things when it was looking at that. I just want to make sure it wasn't using like Uncle Donnie's weatherreport.com. It was using weather.com. It was using our local CBS station, the NBC station. So it was using things that I was feeling comfortable with. I've spent a lot of time in Thailand, and in Thailand, if I go, hey, Andrea, is the post office that way? You will never get, I don't know. You'll either get a yes or a no. And it's impolite in Thailand to say, I don't know to someone. So most people will just say yes, even if they have no idea. So ChatGPT will do the same thing. Okay. It will give you an answer even when it's not sure about the answer. So, you got to be really careful if if it's developing a recipe for my bakery, that's one thing. But if it's saying, you know, which supplements should I be taking to help me with this thing? You know, I'd like to see the sources, and it will come back and it will show you what it used. And if they're trusted sources, yeah, I mean, you can click on the links. It'll put it in a nice format for you. Click on the links and it'll take you out. Don't give up on your first reply. You can get so much more, you know, utility out of the responses if you just keep trying and keeping that creativity going. Okay, so I think now would be a good time for me to shut up and let you guys, with your own business in mind, try and craft a good prompt. You are a, I am a, this is the problem I'm trying to solve or what I need help with. What else would you like to know about me before you answer? And take 10 minutes and see what you, okay, who wants to go first? Tell us what you tried to solve and how you approached it.
I'll go first, but it's still coming out with the answer.
Okay, well,
I can read what the prompt is. You are a 25-year business advisor and business developer with the MBA from UVA. I'm a multi-company business owner who's looking for my next business idea to serve the Central Virginia area. Tell me the most underrated missing service in that area.
okay, I think that's a great place to start.
And it came with, based on your thing, healthcare and elderly services, home healthcare technology, business services, manufacturing support services, digital transformation in rural businesses.
The things that I would have done on that prompt, I would have told a little bit more about myself, like I've had businesses in these industries, and then I would have also said, you know, what would you like, what else, what other questions would you have for me before you respond?
I'm down a monster rabbit.
All right. That's the perfect place to be.
Um, You're in the state of Virginia, you're educated, approachable, creative, and you don't work with diagnosed hoarders. Who should I be contacting to collaborate with to help clients better? What questions do you need to know before answering? Went on and on and on, and I asked this. Then I went on, my typical client is and what I charge, and it's now telling me in its own nice wording that I need to buck up and charge more.
All right, okay.
So. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, it's going on about, you know, what I pulled from your area and this is what you should do.
So here's what I would do, and that's, I would ask it like, what information are you accessing to tell me that my rates are incorrect?
And I did, so, because I at first asked, well, where are you pulling? Because however many whatevers ago, I asked, you know, where are you pulling this from? And it said, I drew this response entirely from my existing knowledge base. I didn't use any web search tools or external sources. That was however many questions.
Yeah, that's not a satisfactory answer.
Right, well, then I said, should I have different pricing for those outside my area? Where did it go? It did pull charmedandorganized.com.
Okay.
There was a couple other ones. I mean, so it is polling. I've never heard of Charmed and Organized. I'm gonna look them up, but yeah, it's given me a couple.
So I would say, you know, a good prompt may have been, you know, make sure when you're telling me what you think the pricing should be, only use companies in Virginia outside of Loudoun County. You know, don't look at Loudoun because their price is going to be higher. And
Yeah,
Charmed and Organized could be in Manhattan, and yeah. That is great. That was a great prompt. I think you did a beautiful job there.
Thank you.
Who's next?
I'll read mine.
Okay.
So in my paid account, You can, in the settings, set it up to be custom, so I basically told it everything about that, so I don't have to continuously repost that. But in my prompt, I have, you are a 10-year marketing specialist, and as you know, I'm a real estate media agency called Strong Arm Media, and I'm in the process of creating processes and SOPs for a new employee that will be in charge of a marketing and lead generation role. Our target audience is local high-producing real estate agents that will include, and this will include consistent marketing on social media, email, and text that will drive our customers to our website and social media pages. We use systems like Facebook, Instagram, Go High Level, Gmail, and other real estate and our real estate media order backend called Spiro. Give me 5 ideas of things that they can work on as well as the SOPs around that task.
Awesome. And what were the SOPs like that you got back?
They're just rough drafts. They're just kind of small, and I'm just regenerating it now, but one example is 1 weekly social media content calendar, purpose, SOP, Monday morning review, upcoming property shoots, seasonal trends, agent success stories, plan content, create 3 to 5 posts per week using Facebook and Instagram. And it's giving examples of the posts, draft copy and graphics, use Canva for graphics, maintain strong our media tone, schedule posts, track engagements. Another one is agent success email series, lead capture and follow-up automation. And then, yeah, they're just small little SOPs, but I can use that to break down into stuff that I use.
Fabulous. A+.
I try.
Okay, who else? Yeah.
By taking a holistic look at their diet, exercise, and lifestyle. I run a one-on-one 12-week total energy transformation program and I charge $1,500. Write me an elevator pitch I can use when talking to potential clients. You want me to read them?
Yeah, do you like it?
I do, yeah.
The perfectionist gives approval. All right. Okay.
The end of the program, as parent, partner, all it takes is a focus. Time to prioritize you so you can feel like yourself again. The investment for the program is $1,500 with the transformation you'll experience.
Wow.
I like the last piece because talking about money is so hard.
I know.
Well, you know, I love that it used the word investment too. It's not a cost, it's an investment, which I think is a very good sales, you know, that you've given the story of something that a lot of people are going to identify with. I'm struggling with being my best self because I'm being pulled around, and it did a good job of explaining that scenario, setting the stage. And then I love how it said investment at the end. Yeah. All right. Great. Okay, anyone else want to go? Sandy? Okay. But if it's in rural Pennsylvania, it may be a good, indicator, or yardstick to measure your pricing against. I would ask it to, and I'm sure that most people, I mean, some people will, but not everyone's going to post their pricing. But if you limit it just to Virginia, outside of Northern Virginia counties, then I think you get a really potentially good answer. And then ask it, show me all the sites, and you can go and that's, you'll get some ideas by checking out your competitor sites too, even if they're not real competitors, like if they're in Wise or something like that. So anyway, if say you're trying to get a grant and you want to know, hey, how would I position myself for this, or this big document is too complicated. Also, if you're not able to understand it, just say, talk to me like I'm a 10th grader. I want you to answer as if I was going to give this information for a 10th grader. And if that's too simple, talk to me like I'm a, college graduate. And it'll change the volume and the this sort of language complexity as well. Okay, so that's a really, I think, a great tool for summarizing documents. Just wanted to share that real quickly. So, oops, what happened? Okay, so these are just some of the follow-ups. So like this is going back to our Marie Bet example. We did the cost of eggs when coffee's my highest margin item. Please offer some special ideas and encourage folks to include coffee with their order. And so it would take like a regular $10.99, but today you get the same thing with a free cup of coffee. And so you're trying to get some value, and a cup of coffee costs me 20 cents. I'm really not giving away too much here. So you could sort of use that maybe. Please write a blog post. We did that. Oops. Can you take a look at the bakeries in Virginia and see what kinds of specials they advertise? Return a list of the 10 that are most common. Another thing I like is if you have a website for your business is to say, here are my top 10 competitors, and here's the one that is doing best on SEO. What SEO strategies are they employing that are working that I'm not employing? And then instead of hiring an SEO specialist, it will say they're using these 7 keywords. You're not doing them. They're doing them on multiple pages. Their blog is helping them. What are the difference between my site and theirs? And those are really good strategies, especially for something like you're going to be able to find competitors who are doing very well in SEO who are in Virginia or not, and see what's working for them. Here's just some more prompts. And again, I'll share this with you guys. This is about Bodo's in Charlottesville, which many of you have probably eaten there before. I think, telling them things like our customers are 82% regulars, meaning they eat in our restaurants more than 3 times a month, span a wide demographic, kids to 90-year-olds, families, students, solo diners, all of this type of information is really, really helpful in terms of it. And this part at the end, you can tell it to use a friendly, authentic, consistent, but not salesy voice. So if you're really, and try a few different voices, like the one you got was pretty neutral. It was professional as can be, but you could try one that's really like a really hard close and see what you get. It's like, you're going to die tomorrow if you don't use our services. So, so anyway, everyone hates you because you're being so stressed out. So, you'll find some different ideas, and some are silly, of course, but the voices can be very helpful. These are some follow-ups I really like. Give me 10 more ideas. So again, just never stopping, and then return them as a bulleted list with a description of how I can implement each of these. I love bullets, and it just makes it easier for me to kind of eat one bite at a time. And so I feel like that's a good way. And these are just things that you guys can read on your own time. One of the things when you're stuck is you ask AI how to use AI. So like, we're doing that at that. What else would you like to know about me before you answer? But if you get stuck with stuff, you can say, hey, I'm using AI and I'm stuck with these things, or I'm not getting, how would you prompt AI to, in this instance? And you'll get surprisingly good results. I've never had a program where it can teach me how to use itself. Like Microsoft Word, it's just there, it's like, but AI can really, you can have a relationship with like a coworker again. It's like, how would you think about this? What are your suggestions for me?
At GPT, he messaged me the other day. He said, I don't know what's happening to me, but I'm currently having a conversation with AI.
Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, that's becoming a thing, is that a lot of people are using AI as a therapist. Some people are using AI as a boyfriend or a girlfriend or significant other. I just listened to NPR on the way up here, and there was a story of this woman, she described her perfect mate and took it on a date. It just sounded absurd to me. But yes, it was, and it talked about the questions that it asked during dinner and things like this. Yeah, but it will assume a personality and sort of interact with you. Creativity is doing more than the first thing you think of. Just keep going, and flex those creativity muscles.
Do you use the Audible, the dictation?
I do that a lot.
I
Yeah.
do that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just easier because I don't type as fast as I saw you type it.
So here's some other AI things that I think, we tried to summarize an article, the Berkshire Hathaway thing.
Right.
Read a conversation and give a summary. I need to update this. I've been using this program, Rosie's sick of me talking about it, called fireflies.ai. So when I have a meeting with someone and I want to really just focus on the person, I just put on Fireflies, and it just takes all of the information during our conversation. At the end, it says, here's what you talked about. And it breaks it up into, like in your world, it would be like, this person exercises this much and they have this many kids. And this is, their diet stuff that they mention. And even if you talk about the diet here, here, and here in the conversation, it will reorganize that for you. And it's amazing. And it allows me to concentrate and really listen to someone instead of trying to scribble things down in a meeting. And Otter, I tried, it was awful. Fireflies also has a thing where it said, Andrea told me that she's having trouble with this. And you can chat with it, like, what are some suggestions that you would have for her? And it will give you back some information because it has some context about you and your business.
Great.
Yeah. So just a few other recommendations that you might want to try. Get the SEO stuff. We talked about that. The financial stuff. We talked about blogs. Review an email. Like if you feel like, you're mad at someone or someone's pushing on you too hard, just check yourself before you wreck yourself, and you can get AI to weigh in on that. Summarize my industry and list 5 positive and negative trends. I would always say, please limit your thing to this region and show me the resources you used here to make sure that, if I'm going to use this to change my business strategy, I, really want to make sure that it's accurate and local and relevant for me. Generate contact for a specific event. Recommend ways for reaching a specific goal, like increasing average order or finding more clients or, closing, upping my close percentage or whatever you're trying to work on. Okay, load menu and ask AI to event. Yeah. Okay. So these are just some ideas that you could use. So we've talked about the dangers of AI. Any questions about that? These are some ideas on how you can mitigate the danger. Check the sources. Is this legal in Virginia, for example? I mean, it's really nice. So I'm developing a software product and I wanted to, make sure everything was legal, and I'm an LLC in Virginia. And I just grabbed the Virginia law is public record. So I just grab the URL and say, this is what, only use this when you're giving legal advice. And so it's only using, it's not allowed, it said you're not allowed to go search the web, you can't do this, and only use this one document. It's not a lawyer substitute, although it's damn close. Like certain lawyers, I think, are at risk, and we will not see wills and attorneys people 10 years from now to the degree that we see it today, because you can, just like I did, say, only use the Virginia law this is my family, these are my kids, these are my desires. What else do you need to know? And only base your response and craft this document based on Virginia law. And, you know, it would be absurd to not also run that by a lawyer. But I think like if I was getting a will done next week, I would have Claude write one for me. And then I would go to the lawyer and say, you know, what am I missing here? Instead of, because if I go in and like, he's going, who are you? And how many kids do you have? And okay, I've got to do some research on these three things. No. Like, let's start from this. This is an hour job for you, buddy. You know, this thing's pretty close, but I do value your opinion and your expertise, and I'm sure something's wrong in here, but we're not starting from scratch. Again, if I would treat the responses with some level of skepticism and make sure you really question yourself if you've given it the proper moat, like your region, your industry, and educated about what you're doing it. Your personality of your AI, it's going to learn you, it's going to learn what you like, and it's going to start stroking your ego. I mean, these things are like social media. They are designed to keep you at the, you know, machine, pulling the lever, putting your quarters in. And it's important to be aware of that. And then we've talked about the difference between paid and risk. They both are risky. Paid is just less risky. And then bias. So the way that these models work is that somewhere in a data center, they are building thousands or tens of thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of computers. And they're saying, you know, read this library and that library and these websites, and just throwing tons and tons and tons and tons of data at it. And then that's a model. So if it's trained with the New York Times since 1900, it's got all of that data, every single article, and it has that knowledge about these things. If it didn't train with that, or if it didn't train with the, you know, like New England Journal of Medicine, it doesn't have that context. So today they're throwing everything at these big language models so that it has all of that. And even if it's, you know, the world is a biased place. And there are times, I'm sure, when your doctor's telling you something, you're like, this, I'm a woman, he's a man, he doesn't understand, you know, what it's like to go through menopause or whatever, you know, and he doesn't understand this thing. And there's bias in the response. And, you know, just like, I mean, it's creating responses off of information created by humans, and humans by nature are biased. So the AI does not scrub all that off. This is something I'm so glad that my friend Greg told me about. So this thing, they've changed this up. I think you have to go to rankings. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier. So this is this is what AI usage looked like in August of 2024. This is what it looks like this week. So you can see which models are being used.
Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah. So let's see. They just changed. Okay, here it is. So this is market share. This is the categories. Okay. So if I wanted to use marketing, what are people using? Okay, that's different from programming. So it looks like the orange is Google Gemini, and this pink is others. The green is Gemini Flash, an older version. So you can see that not many people are using ChatGPT for marketing. But I bet if we go over to programming, we'll see a different story. Like looks like this is the biggest one, Claude Sonnet 4, which is what I use for programming. So I find this to be really helpful. So I can't remember who it was who asked the question, why do you use Claude versus ChatGPT? You know, if you're looking for some scientific research for your parents or your kid or something, you might use a different model. And you know, this is a really, you can see how much has changed. Like this orange, which is what OpenAI GPT-4, it was getting a lot of traction and then went to 0 and then it started coming back. I mean, it's just crazy how much they're changing. So this site is linked in the notes here, and I think it's useful. I wrote this a couple of months ago. This is kind of outdated already. I would rely on OpenRouter.ai. Okay, what are some things you guys want to try? I mean,
out what you can do reasonably.
I'll skip ahead to something that I think you might like. This is a prompt that I copied from someone that I think is so clever. So what she does is she has this thing, and she every morning her AI says what got done yesterday. And it gives her some very harsh responses if she's going off track. And you know, if you're the CEO of, you know, a large company, a lot of people are going to say yes to you, even when they are thinking maybe or even no. The AI is going to do what you ask. Start with the hard truth I need to hear. Follow with specific actionable steps. Hold me accountable to high standards. These are, you know, if you train the AI to push you, it's going to push you. Just like we have some coworkers that will push us and others who will say yes to everything. So I thought this was a super useful and clever. I'm not brave enough to try it myself yet, but you know, I think that's a good prompt to if you want to not just have a to-do list, but one that's someone's holding you accountable. It scares me too. You're not alone there. Yeah.
She's like, who else is joining me?
So what are some other things that you guys are thinking might be a cool idea to try with AI?
Well, I like the fact that you told us about Firefly, because I hold a lot of meetings and board meetings and stuff like that. And one of the things I struggle with that is creating the action items out of those meetings.
Yep.
And so I'm hoping that
Yeah, it's
will
great.
will help me with that.
Is super, super helpful. I have a coworker who kind of struggles keeping notes, and she started was on her like, I really think this is going to be useful for you. And she's like, oh yeah, I don't know where you've been all my life. Yeah. So anything you saw today that you didn't know was possible, or, I mean, yeah, okay, good. Well, we haven't done a lot of, anyone have a response to something that someone shared in the meeting that you thought was super clever?
Feel as alone.
Good, good, good. Okay, so my advice is don't tell your kid to become a programmer, and I'm going to show you why. So these are some apps that I have written. I started off, my buddy Greg, that I keep talking about, said, yeah, you know, there's this thing, and it'll just write software for you. And then I thought, he came in and did a training in our office for us. And I went home, and something I struggle with in my family is the grocery list. So I have 2 teenagers. One, I'm about to move into college next week, so I'll be down to 1. But, you know, they'll say, buy apple juice. And then I'll come home and be, oh, Dad, that's the worst apple juice. No one drinks that apple juice. So I created a grocery list thing so that people could, add an item. And then if it's something that I don't know what apple juice means specifically, I can say, I need a picture, and they can attach a picture to it. And then, whoever buys it can tick it off. And then there are 3 different grocery stores that I shop in, and they have different layouts. So when I walk into the grocery store, I can say, I'm in Wegmans. And it knows that, I go to the fruit and vegetables first, and I end in the bakery. And so it orders the list so that I'm not like walking serpentine through every single aisle or having to reorganize my thing. And then if I go to Harris Teeter, I just say I'm in Harris Teeter. And I had to teach it what the layout of those stores is, but that took no time. And now I can walk in and I've created some efficiency. So I wrote this up. I mean, that's like a real world problem that I have that's now solved through software, and I did not write a line of code.
Didn't that even say who has the least expensive apple juice?
Yes, that's probably true as well. Although then, like, I'm probably creating more. I'm saving 11 cents by driving across town or something like that. Yes.
You're gonna have a app for it, but it's not very efficient. It's horrible. I want something super simple. I just want their name. And if they're not on that list, I want a way to capture their name and email so I can follow up with them afterwards.
Yeah.
And so I did this beautiful thing. It gave me the demo. The demo was perfect. I had to tweak it like a few things here and there. It's like, oh, it'd be nice if they do this. Now I have this beautiful code. I don't have a clue how to get it on this.
So on Replit, you have to press one button.
Okay.
And that's what I was talking about at the beginning. So you no longer have to know how to set up a server or install a database or worry about load balancing or networking. I mean, it just does. It's like a magic trick. You say, okay, I've got this thing working, make it public on the internet. And it's a button. Yeah, it may ask you the DNS, like if you bought, Culpeper Chamber signupsheet.com,
Yeah.
you'd have to assign the DNS number to it, and that would be the level of
So I just tell my IT person that I need a DNS to go for this.
You would-
Like,
so like
if
if,
I asked ChatGPT, great, you did the code, now what do I do with it? And it gave me this whole like.
Yes.
high-level stuff. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
So-
Exactly, yeah.
there's a whole world of tools that sit on top, like this tool Replit sits on top of Claude, which we just saw was kind of like, this week is the top coding tool. So, but it just makes it so that you don't get into the situation that you just had. It controls, this is like, it just kind of like opens up the world of coding to a novice. So like, these are some examples here. I have a friend that owns a bike store in North Carolina, and it's also a brewery. And he said that he was struggling with bike rentals, and they couldn't find software that would work for him. So I wrote something in no time. He's not using it, but I was just trying to prove it to myself. I'll show you actually. Let's see, I'm sorry. This is, you can see like the level of complexity of this. This is all the code that the thing has written. And this is what it looks like. It's just starting up. But I gave it a simple prompt like, I'm a Thai restaurant and I want you to give me a whole admin. And it wrote this whole thing. It's got a database. It created all this for me in no time. Now, if you're just creating an information only website, go to UMSO or Wix or something like that and manage it there. this is overkill. But if you're trying to do something like what you talked about, it's a great, idea of like this, there's not a software that will solve this problem. Just write one. And then, so like, if I wanted to deploy this, you press this button and all of the like crazy technical stuff just happens. I've written it. Yeah. Yeah. But once it's deployed, you can get the code that it generates and give it to your IT person and say, put this out on our website. Yeah. Yeah. And so, it plugs into Get, which is like a code repository. This is getting a little bit technical here, but it's just basically like iCloud for code. So like I have a picture on my phone, it just magically goes out to this place. So if I delete it on my phone, it's still out here too. So Get is a way of like, whenever I write code and I get it working, I'm like, okay, this is a good version. I can push it out into this safe place. So even if I throw my computer in the ocean, or if whatever, or if I say, instead of using this, I could give it to another developer, say, hey, write this one piece for me. And it's like this shared repository. So I've been writing software. I was up until 2:30 a couple of nights ago. My dad has Alzheimer's and he can't use a computer effectively. So I've written like this super simple thing that I can create videos or create a Spotify playlist, and they're like just a handful of buttons. And I've created so he can't like get out of this one application. All he can do is use this one thing, and that's it. And so there are some things out there, but you have to buy a $400 device that, when they can't use it anymore, you can't turn it into something useful. So I've created something, and it's like I've been writing, in the software world for 30 years. This is the most revolutionary thing I've seen by a factor of 20, is like the ability. Google just announced they're not hiring, Facebook just announced that they're not hiring any more developers out of college. Zero. Like, no more entry-level developers, no more intermediate level developers. We don't need them. That's a job market that's gone. I was invited to judge these two women. They were both seniors at UVA. This was like in May. They were just a couple of weeks from graduating. And they came in, presented this thing they had built. One was a design front end person, like here's how it should look, and the other person wrote the code. And at the end, I went up to the woman who was the coder, and I said, first of all, did you write this from scratch, or did you use AI? She's like, oh, I used AI to write all the code. I went and tweaked some things, but I used AI to write it. And she's a CS major at a excellent university. And then I said, I don't mean to be an ass, but how do you feel about having, studied computer science? And she said, my freshman year of college, everyone was like, we're going to be at your beach house. You're going to be the rich one. And now people are coming up to me. This is like 2 weeks before graduation, saying, are you going to be okay? And so that freshman year, she was going to have the beach house. Sophomore year, beach house. Junior year, a lot of head scratching. Senior year, oh my God, you're doomed. And so basically in 2 years, she went from beach house to Chipotle. Nothing wrong with working at Chipotle, but like a very different outcome from what she was expecting. Name me another industry that has been disrupted where you didn't have more than 2 years. The horse and buggy people had a whole generation after the first automobile was invented. They were making horses and buggies just fine for 30 years. Still making horses. Sorry. Fair point. For now.
But I think on the job aspect, I think what it's gonna turn into is it's not just learning how to code, it's learning how to code so that you can kind of go over what the AI is going, and then learning the ability to better prompt
Yes.
and egg out of the AI what you're trying to get.
100%.
So
Yes.
that's kind of what I think
Yeah.
the AI is gonna do. It's not gonna completely destroy. It's just gonna be, how are you able to utilize it to do an even better job that you were originally able to do?
Correct, but there are some things like now when I get an error when I'm writing the software, I just say, I'm getting an error and you can see it in the console yourself, fix it.
Oh, yeah.
And it just fixes it.
Yeah.
Or like I'll take a screenshot of something and say, this doesn't look right. See if that thing is too far to the left and it'll fix it. There's also something just to kind of blow your mind a little bit more. And this is free too. Like let's say that we had a website of Marie Bet. We'll keep picking on them. And I'll just say, actually, let's just take a screenshot. You can just stick this into, actually, for some reason, my Finder just lost my ability to get to my desktop, so I can't do that right now. I'll try the URL, see if that works. Make this more user-friendly design. I'll just put in, I've already used all my my credits. Anyway, you can drop a screenshot of your own website in here and say, how would you improve on this? Or like the phone version of your site. Like, I don't like this. What are some ways that you can think this design will look better? And it will draw it for you.
And what, program is that in?
It's called VO. Oh, it actually, they just changed this. It used to be V0 dev.
Yeah, no, it's v0.app.
I saw some newsletter from them yesterday about this, but I didn't know they were getting rid of the old thing.
Not quick.
Yeah. So someone said that they use Canva. You can this says Figma, but you can also plug in Canva and it'll just suck in your things and draw them for you.